This session is on processor allocation. Here we will discuss the different allocation models and the design issues and the implementation issues in the processor allocation algorithms. Starting with allocation models. Now this allocation models can be classified into two as non-migratory allocation algorithms and migratory allocation algorithms. In the first, with respect to the non-migratory algorithms, when a process is created, a decision is made about where to place it. Once placed on a machine, the process stays there until it terminates. It may not move no matter how badly overloaded the machine becomes, and no matter how many other machines are idle. Whereas with respect to the non-migratory algorithms, a process can be moved even if it has already started its execution. They allow better load balancing, even though they are more complex and have a major impact on the system design. So this is with respect to your migratory allocation algorithms. Now, what is the aim of assigning processes to the other processors? The aim of assigning processes to processor is that we are trying to maximize the CPU utilization. That is, maximize the number of CPU cycles actually executed on behalf of the user job per hour of the real time. Basically, it means that maximizing the CPU utilization in a way of saying that the CPU idle time is to be avoided at all costs. And the next aim is to minimize the minimum response time. Now let's try and understand this with the help of an example. There are two processors. Processor 1, which runs at 10 million instructions per second, and processor 2, which runs at 100 million instructions per second. But the processor 2 has a waiting list of backlogged processes, which will take 5 seconds to finish off, and this will be considered as the wait time. Now we have process A, which has 100 million instructions per second, and process B, which has 300 million instructions per second. Now let's consider case 1. We assume that the process A is executed on the first processor, which runs at 10 million instructions per second. So the response time in this case will be 10 seconds. And we assign process B, that is 300 million instructions per second, on the second processor, which runs at 100 million instructions per second. But here there is a queue which will take 5 seconds to clear this queue. So in total, the response time on processor 2 will be 8 seconds. That is 5 seconds to clear the queue and 3 seconds to execute this 300 million instructions on a 100 million instructions per second processor. So the response time for processor A will be 10 seconds, and the response time for processor B or processor 2 will be 8 seconds. We will reverse this order. In case 2, after reversing the order, we see that we are executing process A on processor 2 and process B on processor 1. So in this case, the response time of processor 1 is 6 seconds and the response time of processor 2 is 30 seconds. Now let's compare both the cases, case 1 and case 2. So this is our case 1, wherein we are executing process A on processor 1, which gives us a mean response of 10 seconds, and process B on processor 2, which gives us a response time of 8 seconds. Whereas in case 2, when we interchanged it, that is, we executed process A on processor 2, which gives us the response time of 6 seconds, and process B on processor 1, which gave us the response time of 30 seconds. So now what we do is we calculate the mean response time in case 1 and the mean response time in case 2. So in case 1, the mean response time is 9 seconds, and in case 2, the mean response time is 18 seconds. So obviously case 1, it is a better option. Now let us understand what is response ratio. Variation of minimizing the response time is minimizing the response ratio. So the response ratio is defined as the amount of time it takes to run a process on some machine divided by how long it would take on some unloaded benchmark processor. So again, in this case also we'll try and understand it with the help of an example. So here we are trying to see whether the response time is better or the response ratio is to be considered. Okay, so here there's an example. We have a 1 second job that takes 5 seconds and a 1 minute job that takes 70 seconds. So if you look at both these cases, you will feel that the response time of the first one is better. But when you can find out the response ratio, you'll get to know that the second one performs better. Now we will discuss in brief the design issues for processor allocation algorithms. The major decisions the designer must make can be classified as 5 different issues, that is, deterministic versus heuristic algorithms, centralized versus distributed algorithms, optimal versus suboptimal algorithms, local versus global algorithms, and sender initiated versus receiver initiated algorithms. We will discuss each one in brief, starting with the deterministic versus heuristic algorithms. The deterministic algorithms are appropriate when everything about the processor behavior is known in advance. Imagine that you have a complete list of all the processes, their computing requirements, their file requirements, their communication requirements, and the other parameters. So with all this information, it is possible to make a perfect assignment. In theory, one could try all the possible assignment and take the best one. So basically in the deterministic, you have the total knowledge in advance. So that is about the deterministic algorithms. Whereas about your heuristic algorithms, in the heuristic system, the load is completely unpredictable. The request for work depends on who's doing what and can change dramatically from hour to hour or even from minute to minute. The processor allocation in such systems cannot be done in a deterministic or a mathematical way, but of necessity uses ad hoc techniques which is called as heuristics. So this is about a heuristic algorithm. Now moving on towards the next issue, that is centralized versus distributed algorithms. Collecting all the information in one place allows a better decision to be made, but it is less robust and can put a heavy load on the central machine. Whereas the decentralized or the distributed algorithms are usually preferable, but some centralized algorithms have been proposed for lack of suitable decentralized alternatives. The third issue is with respect to optimal versus suboptimal algorithms. Here we are trying to find the best allocation or merely an acceptable one. Optimal solutions can be obtained in both centralized and decentralized systems, but are invariably more expensive than the suboptimal ones. They involve collecting more information and processing it more thoroughly. In practice, most actual distributed systems settle for heuristic, distributed, suboptimal solution because it is hard to obtain the optimal one. The next issue is with respect to local and global algorithms. Now, with respect to the local algorithms, if the machine's load is below some threshold, then the process that has just generated, we keep that process. Otherwise, we try to get rid of that process. Local algorithms are simple, but they are far away from optimal. Whereas with respect to global algorithms, it is better to collect the global information about the load elsewhere before deciding whether or not the local machine is too busy for another process. Global algorithms are slightly better in terms of result, but at much higher cost. And the last issue is sender initiated algorithm versus receiver initiated algorithms. You can see here in a figure, there is an overloaded machine which is sending out requests for help to other machine in hope of offloading its new processes on some other machines. So here this particular machine has decided that it has too much work to be carried out and it is trying to share its load with other machine. Whereas with respect to the receiver initiated algorithm, there is a machine here that is idle or underloaded and makes an announcement to the other machine that it has little work to do and is prepared to take on some extra load. So basically, the goal of this particular machine is to tell others that it is willing to take work from other machines. So basically, this particular machine is advertising its availability. Now we'll discuss in brief about the implementation issues with respect to processor allocation algorithm. Now when we discuss the implementation issues, we require to take care of measuring the load on the system itself, whether the system is overloaded or underloaded. The second issue is how to deal with the overhead. Now overhead over here basically deals with collecting of various measurements and moving of processes from one machine to another machine. And finally, the complexity of the algorithm, that is the quality of the algorithm. Now the quality of the algorithm can be decided based upon the CPU utilization, the network usage, and the response time of the algorithm. Now in the year 1986, Dr. Derek Eger shed light on the subject of pursuing complex and optimal algorithm. So basically he considered three algorithms. Algorithm 1. Now the job of this algorithm 1 was it picks up a machine at random and just sends the new processes to those machines. So now if the receiving machine itself is overloaded, then this receiving machine also picks up a random machine and sends the processes off to some other machines. So this process is repeated until either somebody is willing to take that particular job or a hop counter is exceeded, in which no more forwarding was permitted. The second algorithm picks up a machine at random and sends it a probe asking if it is underloaded or overloaded. So if that particular machine admits to being underloaded, it gets the new process, otherwise a new probe is tried. Now in this algorithm also this loop is repeated until a machine is found or the probe limit is exceeded, in which it stays where it was created. And the third algorithm, this particular algorithm probes K machines to determine their exact load. So after determining the load, the process is then sent to the machine with the smallest load. So comparing all these three algorithms, Dr. Eger found out that if we ignore the overhead of the probes and the process transfer, then algorithm 3 was the best. The gain in performance of algorithm 3 over algorithm 2 is smaller, even though the complexity and the amount of additional work required was larger. So finally, Dr. Eger concluded that if using a simple algorithms gives you the best gain or a much expensive and complicated one, then it was better to use this simple algorithm.